Hi. 32 years ago, we were seeking a homestead. We really wanted to live in an eco community. I was 48 and my husband was 54. Actually, 54. It was March was exactly 32 years ago, same month. And we took off from Florida. Our goal was to cover the bottom half of the United States. We didn't have any really interest in being anywhere where it was real cold. Both of us wanted to be able to garden. We wanted to be able to build our own place, our last dream home. We were really excited about that. I'd inherited some money. I was looking forward to being able to build what we wanted. So off we went. It was an incredible adventure to see so much of the United States, to be able to travel from one end of the United States to the other and back. We planned it around different events, different either pagan or neo-pagan or white lighter or other alternative types of events where people were focusing on the environment. 94 wasn't that close to 1969 at Woodstock, nor was it. But the 70s, there was a lot of interest in taking care of the environment. And the 80s, there was still some, so it wasn't too bad. And we were coming up on Y2K, so people were thinking about that too, thinking about the fact that there could be a major computer problem with Y2K. So there were issues, not the issues that we have now, of course, but there were a lot of issues going on. And so the trip was in the RV, and we actually lived in the RV for over 2 years. We were traveling. The trip started in March of 94, and we actually ended in January of 97. So, and then we lived in the RV again. We continued to live in a new RV. We had a different RV by then, and we lived in that for about another 10 months until we had a space built, a straw bale facility. Anyway, we started out and traveled across the bottom half of the United States, stopping at different events because I have been a counselor for many years, and by that time I was a counselor for earth-centered religions. And by that time I'd been ordained. I was ordained in, I believe it was 92, and as a minister. So I had things to talk about. I wanted to talk about a lot of different aspects of seeing the earth as our mother, not recognizing a planet B, recognizing that if we didn't take care of it, we were going to lose it. And here we are in 2006. I just read yesterday Harrison Ford saying we're about there. You know, we've about gone too far. We've just about let it go for way too far. And I knew that because Guy McPherson had said 2026 would be a time when there wouldn't be any mammals left on the planet. But that hasn't happened. But yet, if you're paying attention to what's going on, we are in really bad shape environmentally. But then there's so many other things. I mean, we've got these wars and economic issues and all that, so people just aren't paying very much attention to that. But we were, and we visited Earthships, we visited straw bale homes, we visited trailer homes, we visited it was a really unusual place in Kentucky. Oh my gosh, it was a beautiful piece of land. And it was two couples, and it just fell apart because of the emotions of the two couples. There was this incredible river. There was just, the land had so much potential, and they had built an Earthship with the sun coming in and actually growing food right inside the house. It was really quite a place, but the emotions had torn it down. in terms of being able to maintain it and continue the process. And we saw that in many places. And actually, to tell you the truth, we saw that when we started our own place, that the emotions really get in the way, especially when you're concerned about what's happening with the world. Same thing's happening now. And I'm keeping a really close eye on it because of the experiences we had. But we traveled from Florida to California. We went up the coast of California, which of course was extremely beautiful trip. We stopped many places in Arizona as we finally did settle in Arizona. We went all the way up into where, at the time, my mother church was in, our mother church. Actually, my mother church was in Washington, and my husband's mother church was, California. Yeah, it was in California. So we went up to Washington, all the way up into Canada for an event. Gosh, it was beautiful up there, and we stopped to see many different people and many different events, and just we're so happy to be around people who really cared about the earth and really wanted to keep it going and really understood what was happening, and it was just. That was so lovely. And people who, when we'd leave, they'd wish us well. But unfortunately, because I was 48, that put me awfully close to the line where nobody with Federation of Intentional Communities would take anyone. They didn't want to take anybody over 55, and Don was 56. So we were turned down. Every place we went, we tried, and we were turned down. So our solution was to go back into Arizona, where we had met some lovely people, and we met a gal who was a real estate agent who has since become like a soul sister to me. It's a beautiful thing to have been with her for all these years and had such an incredibly wonderful, close connection. But we found 1,227 acres of desert. And it had all been oak forest. But the Copper Queen mine had completely stripped all of the trees to smelt the copper. And that was in Bisbee, Arizona. This was in Douglas, Arizona. Well, it was outside of Douglas, about 12 miles outside of Douglas, this piece of land, and it was absolutely stripped. The only thing on it was cactus. There was lots and lots of cactus, but there wasn't anything else. There were 2 wells. One was a little bit deeper, and one was hand dug. And there wasn't any guarantee that they would continue to work. But you could see the border from the land, but it wasn't exactly on the border. There was the border of the United States and Mexico. There was land, and there were some very, very big farmers there who were fighting hard to hold on to their land. And then there was the highway, and we were up from the highway, I think it was 9 miles. I'm not absolutely sure at this point. But the other end of the land touched the national forest, and that was a big benefit to us. We really liked the idea of being able to touch the national forest. We didn't like the idea that the land had been totally stripped. But what happened is, as we came into the land, my husband was down talking with the realtor, and I walked quite a ways up into the land, and I saw about 7 deer. And when I did, I felt a voice. I know that sounds very strange, but that's what happened. I felt a voice say, I was raped. And I responded inside myself with how, when, who, like that. I felt this voice speaking to me, and I responded like that. And she said, when I was a girl, my trees are all gone. And I took that to mean that in some way I was being connected by something, someone, some dead spirit, something, to let me know what had happened. And that's exactly what had happened. All the trees were taken, and they didn't replant any trees. But at $143 an acre, we decided it was worth a try. We were pretty tough. We were both feeling very rejected. To travel for 2 years back and forth across the United States and ask people to let us live there. And I had a nice cash reserve because of having had the inheritance from my parents' home. I could afford to build the house, so it wasn't like I was going to be a burden on the community, or would my husband. My husband was a veteran, so he had a steady pension, and I had a nest egg. But everyone turned us down because we were so old. And it really, it was kind of a combination of disappointment, big disappointment, because there were some lovely areas that we know we could have been an asset. Don is an incredible architect. We have built many houses together, and they've all been quite lovely and very, very useful, very sustainable. It was extremely disappointing. And I had my doctorate in special education and a background of a master's degree in business. So I felt like I would bring to a community an asset as far as accounting. I don't think most of them would be interested in my spiritual aspects, but I certainly could counsel people with divorce or marriage or drug, alcohol, or death, or birth. I mean, I'd had some heavy background in counseling, and yet they said no. And Don was a veteran, so he also had some skills, and they all said no. Of course, now it's different. Now the Federation of Intentional Communities actually takes older people, but in 1994 the answer was no. So there was a combination. When we finally found the land, there was this combination of, by God, we're going to do this. We're just going to do this. If nobody comes, that's too bad. We're going to do this. And at the time, we really didn't realize what we were up against. We were really up against a big challenge, because the ground was caliche, which is, I might as well have said concrete. It's a layer of soil that is lost all of its topsoil. And so we had to use newspaper and sawdust and peat moss and anything we could get our hands on to build up from the ground. We couldn't go down because you couldn't cut through it. I mean, even a bulldozer wouldn't go through it. It was just because of all the trees being gone. And we did it. We built 14 buildings. We built them out of straw bale. We did papercrete. We did what they call dry stack concrete. You name it, we tried it. I mean, we traveled. Well, we had gone all over in New Mexico with several different people there. Were doing things with papercrete, and that was really successful. In fact, we built a big kiva, 32 feet across kiva, out of papercrete, a dry stack concrete. We've just built so many buildings. We took old trailers that people gave us and covered them with the paper. I made my house was $50, the house I lived in. I mean, we just tried so many different things, and we offered free workshops and offered people to come and stay with us for free to learn what we were doing. And Y2K came, and some people stayed with us for many months, actually. So it was a real solid adventure, and something I would not give up the memories for anything. We had our own chickens, we had our gardens. Every day, dinner was whatever was growing. I mean, that was just the way it was. We didn't have animals there. There was nothing to support an animal. I mean, we had horses, but we didn't have anything we ate. We were given horses. We ended up with a lot of horses at one point, and the horses would leave every day and head towards the national forest to try to find something to eat. There just wasn't anything to eat. It's so incredibly hard to, I mean, I can't tell you how many people contacted us and said, oh, well, just live off the land. And I said, it's not possible. There's no trees. It's just cactus. It's just so sad, but it's so dry, and there's nothing to make a home out of, and there's no way to go down into the soil. We've tried. I mean, it was really, really sad. We connected with some of the government agencies. We connected with Native Indians who were working for government agencies, or who were still in their villages. I mean, we tried so many things to try to make that land work, and it just wouldn't work. It couldn't be revived with the resources that we had. It just needed to have topsoil put back and planted. It was really, really sad, because there was so much, just so many beautiful memories. Don's mother lived with us for a while. She was in her 90s, and it was too rough for her too. And then it was extremely hot in the summertime. You know, when you're just staying in a trailer, and quite cold in the winter too, because there wasn't a way to have the greenery that would make such a difference. It was extremely hard. So we stayed there from 1997 until 2008. When we moved to that's a different story. The fact of the matter is, regardless of what you face, I mean, it was high. That was part of the issues with the land, but I kept up with everybody. I really did. I was only 48, 50. My next birthday will be 80, so that was a long time ago. But I kept up with everybody, and so did my husband. I just couldn't believe and then he had a heart attack. And that's what was the final blow, because we tried so hard to make that our permanent home. We really wanted to stay there. And then, of course, Trump was elected, and they started stacking up what they call them, 18-wheeler container cars all along the border, and everybody was using the water to build the fence instead of for farming, and the farmers lost their water, and the wells dried up, and so it was not the place that we needed to stay. And it's a long story, but that's how we ended up here in Ecuador, where we couldn't be happier. But I wanted to tell you the story because traveling the United States, I've either lived in or visited every state but Hawaii, and it was an incredible experience to see how so many people were expressing themselves regarding what the environment is doing, regarding the changes that are happening in our home. But it's happening all over. I mean, I've visited Europe and Central and South America, and we need to do something. And that's the reason I'd like you to, if you have any questions, to answer me down below, ask me down below. And if you're down there, you can look at our nonprofit. It was started 34 years ago. We've done a lot of different work. We've worked with children to get them to learn about taking care of the earth. And we've also, two of us are artists, and we've got work down there that shows reminders to take care of the earth. So have a look around. Hope you come back. Thanks for being here today. Bye.